Every ship that passes through the Panama Canal flushes roughly 50 million of fresh water straight into the ocean. Not salt water, fresh water. The same fresh water that comes out the taps for nearly half of Panama's population. In 2023, that lake nearly went dry. The canal ground to a stop, and more than 160 ships sat anchored in a tropical heat, some of them for a few weeks. And the fix that engineers now have approved will result in thousands of people losing their homes and having to be resettled from areas where they have lived with their families for generations. All of that so your cargo can keep moving and your Temu package arrives on time. Here's the thing that most people don't know about the Panama Canal. It is not sea level like the Suez Canal. It doesn't just cut through the land and let ships sail straight across. It's a staircase, a series of enormous concrete chambers, each the size of a small city block, that lifts ships 85 feet into the air, carries them across mountains, and then lowers them back down on the other side. Think about that, a fully loaded cargo ship, hundreds of meters long, carrying tens of thousands of tons of steel, electronics and grain, being physically lifted 8.5 stories into the air by water pressure alone. No pumps running the main show either, no engines, just fresh water draining downhill from Gatún Lake into the lock chambers. The water fills the lock and the ship rises. The water then drains into the locks below, into the ocean, and the ship continues its journey. Gravity does the work, rainfall fills the lake powers the locks move the ships. It is generally one of the most brilliant and elegant pieces of engineering ever built. And every time a ship makes that journey, 50 million gallons of water go with it out to sea. That's almost 76 Olympic-sized swimming pools. Every transit, every ship, every day. Now, most people think the canal uses fresh water to protect the canal itself and the ships from corrosion of seawater. And yes, salt water would damage machinery, but that's not the real reason here. The real reason is Gatún Lake isn't just the canal's power source. It is the drinking water supply for 55% of Panama's population. Panama City, Colón, millions of people who turn their taps on every single morning. If salt water ever got back to that lake, if it crept backward through the lock system into the lake, the water supply for half of the country would be contaminated permanently. You can't unfill a freshwater lake from salt water. The ecosystem would collapse. The watershed would be gone forever. So fresh water it has to be, and it has to come from that lake, and the lake has to keep refilling. For over hundreds of years, this system worked perfectly, because Panama, by almost any measure, is one of the world's most wettest countries, with 75 inches of rainfall per year. The engineers that designed the locking system in the early 1900s knew this very well and assumed the lake would be always full. They were correct until 2023. Before I tell you what happened, I want you to sit with one number. The Panama Canal consumes roughly 2.5 times the daily water usage of New York City every single day, running entirely on rainfall with no backup. 2023 brought something Panama has never seen at this scale. A combination of El Niño, a natural warming of the Pacific Ocean's waters, and record global temperatures hit the country hard. Rainfall dropped 30 to 50% in certain areas, and scientists described it as the driest 2 years in Panama's history. Over 140 years of rainfall data, and 2023 was the lowest on that graph. Gatún Lake began to fall. By January 2024, the lake was nearly 12 feet lower than it was just 12 months before, the lowest water level ever recorded for that time of year. And the Canal Authority faced a very difficult choice to make at that time. Keep letting ships going through at full capacity and risk draining the lake that millions of people depended on for drinking and surviving, or cut the traffic and protect the people. They chose to protect the water. Daily transits dropped from the usual 38 ships per day down to as low as 22. That's more than a third of the canal's capacity gone, and one of the most crucial trade routes in the world. Ships began piling up. By August 2023, more than 160 ships were anchored up waiting in a queue. Some faced waits of up to 3 weeks. Average wait times increased by 44 to 59%. The authority also cut down on the maximum weight of a ship that was allowed to pass through, meaning some vessels had to offload containers and extra cargo, which then had to be moved by truck and train past the canal. Think about what that actually looks like in practice though. A ship arrives, it's too heavy for the water level. Its cargo gets taken off, loaded onto trucks, driven 50 miles across Panama on the road, and then reloaded onto another ship on the other side of the canal because there wasn't enough rain. And then shipping companies did something that shows you exactly the scale of severity this was on. They gave up on the canal entirely and they started sailing around Africa instead. The alternative to the Panama Canal for ships moving between Asia and the Americas is the Cape of Good Hope, the southernmost tip of Africa. Thousands of extra nautical miles, weeks of additional sailing time, millions of additional costs in fuel. And in 2023, that route became faster than the queue in Panama. Ships carrying grain, electronics, car parts, medical supplies, anything moving between the Pacific and Atlantic got diverted. The extra costs got passed down the chain. Consumers on both sides of the ocean felt the impact, with longer wait times and higher prices. Liquefied natural gas, or LNG for short, was hit particularly hard. Transit fell as much as 73% during the peak of the drought. Many of those routes still haven't reached peak efficiency all this time after the drought. Scientists who studied the drought in 2023 confirmed what everyone was speculating. The scale of the crisis wouldn't have happened without El Niño, a weather pattern in the Pacific Ocean. Thousands of miles from Panama choked one canal and sent price shocks through 6 continents across the world. That's how connected this whole system is. That's why a lake in Central America is never just a lake. Hit the like button to make sure the algorithm knows you're interested in stuff like this before we continue. Here's the part that doesn't normally get covered in majority of the Panama Canal stories. In 2016, the canal opened a major expansion, new, bigger locks, the Neo-Panamax locks, built to handle the largest container ships ever built. Ships 3 times the size of the original locks could now pass through the canal. More ships, bigger ships, meaning bigger revenue. The expansion also introduced water-saving basins. These basins catch around 60% of the water that would otherwise be drained into the ocean. Smart engineering and genuinely impressive. But here's what the 2016 expansion did not do. It did not add a single extra drop of water into the system. The canal grew its appetite, but it did not grow its supply. More ships, bigger ships, higher water demand per day, even with accounting for the recycling basins. And then on top of it, climate change started to shift the water rainfall patterns as well. So what's the fix? There is one, and it's been approved. It costs $1.6 billion, and it includes flooding the houses of people that live along Rio Indio for generations. People who, when they were asked, said no. The plan is called the Rio Indio Reservoir Project. The idea is to build a dam on Rio Indio, a river that runs west of Gatún Lake, creating a new reservoir that could feed the existing one. A backup system in case of droughts. This would feed and act as a reservoir for the reservoir. During dry seasons, this new reservoir would allow 15 extra ships per day to cross the canal and would secure the drinking water supply for another 50 years. The Panama Canal Board of Directors has approved this already. Construction is scheduled to start at the beginning of 2027 and is expected to finish by 2032. Total cost $1.6 billion, of which $400 million is specifically allocated to help relocating the families and repurchasing land for them. More than 2,000 people will need to leave their homes. Up to 12,000 people across the wider Rio Indio region will be affected directly or indirectly. Surveys and polls have found that around 90% of the population around Rio Indio has opposed this. 90%. Residents have taken to the river in motorized boats to protest. Rivers without dams, living towns were the signs that were held up by the protesters. The Canal Authority says it will work with the communities. It says the relocation plan will be built around respect for local rights and culture. But Panama has a record on this. In 1970s, a large population of indigenous people were relocated after the building of a hydroelectric dam and promised full compensation. In 2014, almost 40 years later, the Inter-American Court of Human Rights had deemed that the government had never fulfilled the payments and failed to protect the communities it promised to protect. The people of Rio Indio know that history very well. And if everything goes to plan, and construction does start in 2027 and finishes on schedule on 2032, the next El Nino is expected to come back before the dam is finished. The canal will be vulnerable again before the project's done. The Panama Canal was built as a masterpiece of 1900s engineering. Today, it is a freshwater siphon in a drying watershed, a system designed for the climate of the past, trying to survive in the climate of the future. So next time you see a container ship on the news, somewhere on the Pacific, carrying phones, grain or rice, remember what it cost to get there. A lake gave up its water and someone else is being asked to give up their home for it. If you enjoyed this, like and subscribe for more, and let's retrain your algorithm to teach you and not feed you garbage. And I will see you in the next one.